From the time she was 18 until just about a year ago when she was 41, Elizabeth was forced to live in a small, dingy basement built beneath the family home. She gave birth to 7 of her father's children during that time.
Welcome back to Operation Evil, and we are here to give you probably one of the most disturbing true stories that we've had so far. I don't know. It's one of the top disturbing.
Definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, I'd say so too. This is episode 67, titled Incest Monster. I'm your host, Nyoka.
I'm Rachel.
And I do want to say this episode requires a trigger warning. And the reason being is because it contains incest, rape, imprisonment, abuse on all levels, and involves children. So listener discretion is advised. It's okay if you want to skip this episode altogether. I'm warning you now. Trigger warning. Okay. Before I go into the story, I want to tell you how this came up. So I was on TikTok scrolling, as I do, and this preview for a movie came up. And I'm like, what is this? Because it really caught my attention. And it was called Girl in the Basement. And I'm like, well, I have this movie app and this same movie came up for sale. And I was like, oh, I remember seeing the preview for that. It looks really good. And it's a Lifetime movie. And it had really good reviews. So I went ahead and purchased it. I was telling Rachel about it. She's like, yeah, I watched it. It's really good. So this is how it all started. And I recommend watching it, Girl in the Basement. And this story is based on Elizabeth Fritzl. But we found out through some research, too, that the movie, The Room, I don't know if you watched that one. I know you have, Rachel, was also inspired by Elizabeth Fritzl. But The Room was like super tame compared to Girl in the Basement. And every time when I'm watching that movie, my mouth dropped like every 15 minutes. I'm like, are you kidding me? And how it just continues and continues. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And when I found out that this is actually based on or inspired by a true story, and I found out this true story was even worse than what the movie portrayed, I was like, how could it be worse? But it was. So that's how this came about. Anyway.
And also what makes it even worse is that the dad in the movie is Judd Nelson.
Right. And I was like, who's that? Because I'm horrible with names. So go ahead and tell everybody who that is. Oh, no. I lost you for a second.
Let's say for people who don't know, it is the guy that's in the Breakfast Club.
Yes.
I forget.
The criminal.
Oh, okay. I'll repeat that again.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so it was the guy that was in the Breakfast Club. I don't remember his name. Do you?
No.
But it's the guy with the long trench coat, the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
The bad boy.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, no, it's not. I mean, I had to really stare. It's like, oh my God, it is.
Yeah, because like he was in some other 80s movies too, like St. Elmo's Fire. I think maybe one other movie I can't think of, but I mean, typically he never played a role like that.
And he did a good job. I mean, I really hated him in this movie. I really did. He was
for sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that was a hard role to play. So this story is about Elizabeth Fritzl and her father, Josef Fritzl. And I do want to say, depending on where you hear information, I watched a couple different documentaries. They would say Josef or Joseph. I heard it both ways. So I just want to acknowledge that. I don't know if Joseph is like the American version of Joseph, but I refer to him as Joseph throughout. And also when they talk about a cellar, you're going to hear that same type of thing being interchanged with other words like bunker, cellar, basement. All of those this the same location. I just want to make that clear because I do use that in different ways throughout the story. So let's take you to the beginning. The nightmare began in 1984. Well, actually, really, it was before 1984, but it was on August 28th, 1984, where the monster really showed his face. This story is about a girl named Elizabeth Fritzl. The location is Amstetten. I'm probably saying that wrong. Amstetten, Austria, in an underground dungeon. And the monster was Josef Fritzl. So Elizabeth, at the time, she's 18 years old, has no idea that her own father, Josef, had an obsession about locking her up. And he had been actually thinking about locking her up since she was 12 years old. And he planned her imprisonment in detail. So just to give you a little bit of their family background, Elizabeth is one of 7 children, and Joseph took a special liking to her. And I think she was like child number 4, something like that.
So she was kind of in the middle.
Yeah. So he actually started raping his daughter when she was 11 years old. And he would do such disturbing things. It was mentioned in a couple documentaries that he would leave like dirty magazines under her pillow, and he would expose himself to her. He would also take her everywhere that he went. Like he always said he needed help, and he would take her everywhere. She was always in his sight. She had very few friends. He wouldn't let their friends come in and play. He would send them away. As she got older, she started getting poor grades in school. When other girls were talking about their boyfriends, she never spoke of any. She was just kind of felt secluded, and she had actually like started to rebel and ran away a few times. And every time she would run away, the cops would bring her back home. So,
you know what? I wanted to mention, since you kind of on that subject, I couldn't remember what year it was that like the missing kids program started, like Code Adam. Remember John?
Oh,
Walsh and all
yeah.
that? So I just wanted to point out that it was like 1983 when Ronald Reagan proclaimed the first National Missing Children's Day. So just keep in mind that the education about missing kids was just starting.
Right. That's a good thing to mention.
Happening to her. Yeah.
And I know this is in a different country, but I would assume we're all on the same playing field when it comes to the awareness.
Right. Right.
Well, he wouldn't let her have friends. She was, rebelling, all of these things. And she was a quiet girl. And it kind of goes back. So, okay. In 1978, Joseph applied for a planning permit to build on to his house underground. His house was like an old hotel. Like it was a very large house. So it had like several rooms, and he would even rent out these rooms to people because his house was so big. But anyway, so he wanted to build on to his cellar. He got the permit. It was never looked at like as a weird thing. It just wasn't during this time and whatever. So this is when he actually put his plan into action. So police revealed that he spent several years planning the bunker. And you might be thinking, like, how did this bunker not like raise any questions? Well, it wasn't out of the ordinary at this time for someone to build like a safe space. I mean, there's plenty of people now that have, safe rooms or whatever. But
well, and wasn't it like through the 80s was the threat of the Cold War, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So this was not like a weird thing.
Yeah. And I know, again, like we're talking about US and stuff, but I mean, didn't that possibly involve other countries as well?
Sure. Yeah. So, and what made this situation unique is that Josef was an electrical engineer, so he knew how to do all of this work himself. So,
oh God.
Yeah. So he starts working on this cellar for years. And he starts it when she's like 12 years old. And now she's 18. And he realizes that he needs to put this plan into action because he needs to make her his prisoner after she tried to run away again. I guess before she turned 18, he realized, she's getting older and she's going to move out and then I don't have control on her. So I need to act now. That's basically like what it came down to. So what he did was he lured Elizabeth to the basement by pretending that he needed help carrying a door down there. And once he got her down there, he drugged her like with chloroform. Actually, the drug was called ether. I don't know if that's the same thing. Don't really know this stuff. But so he put it on the rag and, knocked her out. And then he dragged her into a small chamber where she was.
Ether? What?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, like we're cutting up.
Yeah.
Wasn't ether what they used to use for surgery?
Maybe so. Whatever it was like really strong and it knocked her out, like put her to sleep. So probably so. So after he knocked her out and he dragged her into this small chamber and he handcuffed her to a pole for 2 days. And then later he would put her on a leash around her waist made with an electric cable. Yeah, like a dog, dude. Like she only could go to certain places where it would reach. Now, after...
Oh, God.
He's a monster. Complete monster. After locking her up in the cellar, Josef tells his wife, Rosemary, which is Elizabeth's mother, that he told her and anyone who would listen that Elizabeth ran away. And he was said to have told his daughter to write a letter claiming that she was unable to cope with her life and she left to join a cult. And in this letter, he had her write to stop searching for her. But what was weird is that she ran away to this cult, right? That he says, but no personal items were taken. So why would she leave with no personal items? No ID, no purse, no clothes, nothing. I'm just giving you this information because I don't know. I mean, obviously we know the dad knows where she is, but mom and the police are involved, right? To find her. She was officially declared missing at this point.
Some people are like, some kids when they're that age, they have like a favorite item that they're not going to go anywhere without.
Right. And another problem too is because they kept her case open for a year, but they shut it. But the reason that they weren't that concerned is because she's 18 at this time. And they were like, she has a history of running away. They've had to bring her home a couple times to him when she's run away in the past. So who's to say she didn't just leave and join this cult? She's an adult. She could do what she wants. Who are we to say that you have to come home?
It sounded credible.
Right. So they're not going to look that hard because she's an adult now. So back to the cellar. This was a soundproof, rat-infested, wet basement, and it was barely large enough to stand up in. It was like the size of a jury box in a courtroom. And there was a steel door to the prison that was concealed behind shelves and secured with an electronic lock that only Josef had the code to. And there, you know what the messed up part is? Okay, so if you watch the movie A Girl in the Basement, you can see that the dad has the whole like cellar basement hidden because he has like this bookshelf that moves and nobody knows about it. And it moves. And when you move it, it reveals the door behind there. So this is what you're kind of picturing. They're moving like these shelves. And it's little, like a little Harry Potter door under the steps. It's small. Okay. So you had to crawl through there to get to it. But to get to the actual part of where she's being locked up, there's 8 doors. 8 doors to get to this room. And 2 of them are steel and with electronic locks.
8?
8. Yes.
So when people ask, how did the mother not know? There you go.
Well, there's more. So he's spending so much time in the basement. And he threatens the family like, you are not to come down here. He's yelling at his wife for even trying to attempt to bring him a cup of coffee. No, this is my kingdom. This is my man cave. You are not to enter for any reason. This is my space. And people obeyed that. And anyone that rented the rooms upstairs were told they weren't allowed to come here either. There were also areas outside that they couldn't go to, and the garden was being one of them. And the reason why the garden was one of them is because he was afraid they would hear Elizabeth from the cellar. So if he caught anybody doing these things, he's going to boot you out, right? And then you're going to have nowhere to go. But the wife didn't question it because he was an engineer. He was drawing up plans all the time for companies and whatever, and he would work downstairs. So to her, he's working hard. He's a hard-working man.
Did you find out anything about, did he have like a controlling, like mean personality to other people?
He did. He was a very abusive man. And I'll get into this in a second, but back to the basement and her being imprisoned. I was shocked by this when I did the research, but for the first few years of her being locked up, he did not even speak to her at all. He would just go in there and have his way with her. And the rapes in the basement began on her second day of imprisonment. She was actually raped by her father every 3 days on average. So she spends a total of, I'm just going to tell you now, she spends a total of 24 years in captivity. So if her father is raping her about every 3 days on average, he has raped her over 3,000 times. And on top of that, she has given birth to 7 of his children. 3 of them in that same room that she was captured, like put in originally. And he would even rape her in front of their children. It was awful. Like, she didn't become pregnant though until like the 5th year that she was captive. So she's by herself. I just can't imagine. The only connection to the outside world is him. That's it. Now, for the first 9 years, she was held prisoner in the same cell area. It was the size of the jury box, like I mentioned, in a courtroom, The dungeon had no shower, no warm water, hardly any ventilation. In the summer, it was sizzling hot. In the winter, it was freezing cold. And there were times where she was kept in complete darkness for periods up to 10 days. And the only person that she could ever see was him, the monster. She depended on him for food and everything. So in 1993, he decided that he's going to extend the bunker. And he started adding other rooms, and one which contained a double bed and a television. So now she finally has a television for another outside world connection. And he would still continue to torture Elizabeth and the children often. He would tell them that if they tried to escape, that he would gas them. He said that he had claimed to set up some sort of mechanism that would release gas into the bunker as soon as they would try to escape. And all of the children were born in captivity without medical supervision. And I can't imagine when she's pregnant with her first baby. One, it's an incest baby with your father. Two, she has no medical attention at all. And three, all he does is he gives her a book about childbirth. He gives her a couple towels and a pair of scissors and tells her to figure it out. So that's all she had. That's it.
So she gives birth every time by herself.
Yes. There's no one to hold her hand, to calm her down, to show her the way. Nothing. So investigators said one child, a twin, died shortly after birth. And the child that died was disposed of by Josef by burning the evidence of the child's body in the furnace. And then I saw somewhere he took those ashes and released them in the garden or something. So they had 6 living children now, 3 boys and 3 girls. And Josef legally adopted 2 boys and 1 girl because they were running out of room down there. It's a lot of people confined. So you might be wondering, okay, so how did he adopt 3 of the children and get away with it? How does Rosemary not know what's going on? How is this even possible? Well, Josef said to his wife that the 3 babies had been left by Elizabeth on their doorstep, and he did this in different years. And each delivery accompanied a letter signed and written by Elizabeth saying how she couldn't support another child. She had other ones to care for and all that other stuff. Please take care of the kid. The children that he adopted, they never knew anything because he did this as they were babies, newborns, basically. So they didn't remember anything about the bunker or their mother or their siblings. The 3 children that lived upstairs, the ones he adopted, at the time that everything came to a head, the 2 girls were aged 15 and 14, and the boy was 12. They went to school like normal kids, unaware about their mother and siblings being right below their feet. No idea. The ones downstairs, there was a girl, 19 years old, 2 boys, one's 18 and one's 5. Those were the ones underground. Can you imagine being 19 years old and you never known anything other than a cellar?
No.
He would go as far as torturing these kids with telling them how great their siblings' lives were upstairs. How mean are you? And let me tell you, this bunker had no windows at all. None. So they don't even see sunlight at all from any room. Now, he probably felt like he had more control as more children came in the picture. He's probably like equating that to, I have Elizabeth in my grips even more. She did do her best with those kids. I mean, she's a prisoner, but she tried to educate them. She would teach them what she knew. She would do this for 2 or 3 hours a day. She would give them.
She was still a kid herself.
Yeah, she was still a kid herself. And she was trying to make their lives as normal as one could. And I guess my best way to describe that is if you did see the movie Room, and the things that she would do to make it normal, that's how she would try to make it normal. Like just a normal day-to-day family day. She did her best. And considering the situation, I think she did really well. And she also tried to protect the kids from Josef because she knew how, much of a monster he was. So 24 years would pass before Josef would be found out and arrested. 24 years Elizabeth is imprisoned, and 3 of her children know nothing of the outside world. And police said the case only came to light after one of the girls, the oldest, 19-year-old Kirsten, she was admitted to the hospital in critical condition in mid-April 2008. She ended up talking Josef and taking her to the hospital, convinced him, like, if you don't, she's going to die. And what are you going to do with a teenage body? And that's murder. Like, this is how she's, like, convincing him. Like, she needs help. She needs to go to the hospital. So he agrees. He takes her. So she's brought in unconscious, and she later suffers from seizures. She's fighting for her life. They didn't disclose what illness she had, but they did put her in an induced coma. They had put her on a respirator, and she was undergoing dialysis because of the effects of lack of oxygen. Because remember, they didn't have good ventilation. The doctors were trying to figure out her medical background. It was like she showed up out of nowhere. There's no records of this girl existing. Of course not, because she was born in a cellar. They know nothing about this girl at all, other than they were told that it was Elizabeth Fritzl's daughter who went running away when she was 18 into a cult and dropped her off at the doorstep. That's what the doctors knew. The doctors stepped up the efforts to try to find Elizabeth because they needed background information. They needed medical information to help her. They went as far, the doctors, to go on the television begging for Elizabeth to come forward to help with her daughter. Like, isn't that amazing that doctors did that? Reaching out that way to the public?
Yeah.
So because they did that, Josef brought Elizabeth and one of the siblings to the family home upstairs, and he told his wife that their missing daughter returned home, and this is her kid, and whatever. So Elizabeth goes to the hospital. Josef takes them there to see Kirsten, the daughter that's sick, and to help, with the medical information, whatever. So when she gets to the hospital, and as soon as she has the opportunity, she tells the hospital staff, and she tells the police everything that she has been through for the past 24 years. And they almost don't believe it because it's so off the wall. However, days before Elizabeth told the police everything, they were already looking, like the law enforcement was already looking at Josef because they knew something wasn't right. And they decided to compare DNA samples of the hospitalized girl to Josef and other family members to see like genetic comparison. And they're just trying to find out information. And this was all 10 days before the reveal was made. So, I mean, they're going to see from DNA that he's fathered these kids or that child,
So I guess he gave his DNA?
Actually, he refused it, which made it even worse, right? Because everybody else agreed.
Yeah.
And he was not being as cooperative And why wouldn't you be as cooperative when your granddaughter is dying?
Right.
So suspicions were raised for sure. After Elizabeth told the police everything that was going on, they arrested Josef Fritzl on April 28th, 2008. And get this, the time of his arrest, he was 73 years old. And I'm thinking, dude could die anytime. What would have happened if he died and they never got out? He was their lifeline. Like, he brought the food down. You know what I mean? Like, what would have happened? Like, this was my thought when like researching this, like, oh my God, he was older and, you know, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, they probably would have been found years and years, hundreds of years later, maybe.
Yeah. It's just scary to think about. So when he's arrested, he gives the police the security access codes to the basement. And by his own confession, the police say that Josef held his daughter inside of a hidden windowless cellar for nearly a quarter of a century, raping her repeatedly and forcing her to give birth to 7 of his children. After his full confession was made about his crimes, he said he regretted his behavior. He claimed that the reinforced door leading to the bunker had a timer enabled on it so that it would be easily opened if he was gone for a long period of time. So that kind of answered my question on what if he would have died or whatever, but I don't know for sure. Did he really have something enabled to open that door? I mean, I just don't feel like he would care. But I mean, what do I know? That's just what they said. I don't believe
that one bit.
Yeah, I don't know if he really did or not, but that's what he claimed. He also insisted that there was no force involved when it came to admitting incest. Right.
He said he didn't force her?
Yeah.
Wow, he becomes even more disgusting.
He is so gross. Now, police photographs of the prison revealed several tiny underground chambers, a washing space, and a cooking area. And police said that there was also like this rubber wall padded cell that was like, it had childish drawings of animals and like the sun had been painted on the walls. And the only link they had to anything was the television. And they actually get pictures of what it looks like in there, and I will post those on Facebook if you want to take a look. And there's also like the building plan of like how this was built out over the years. So after the rescue, according to the ORF national television, Elizabeth and 5 of the children were receiving treatment by a team of psychologists in the hospital. Reports stated that Elizabeth was physically frail and horribly disturbed by her experience. They also said that she looked 20 years older than her age and with white hair and a lined face. And they also mentioned that their skin was so white, it was like translucent almost. Because think about it, they were in darkness all the time. And she was in darkness for 24 years. Those kids never seen sunlight. You know, they're vitamin D deficient, like all of these things. Can you imagine what their skin color looks like? So,
no way.
Yeah, she looked aged because everything she went through. So when 2 of the children were freed, authorities said that they were seeing sunlight for the first time. And they were like amazed in the car driving to the hospital and like just in awe, like, oh my gosh, that's a tree. Oh my gosh, that's a car, you know, like that sort of thing. They've never seen these things before. So that was kind of touching. But Elizabeth and her children, they sought refuge in the specialist clinic during the trial to avoid publicity. And authorities were working really hard to provide them a new start in life with new identities. Now, after months of recovering.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, they really worked with them. I think they lived in the psychiatric like hospital area. Like they had almost like their own wing, like their own little apartment thing for several years. I mean, they really worked with them. And finally, when they moved from there, Elizabeth and the children were relocated to a secret location with new identities. So all of that happened for them. She lives a pretty quiet life. You're not going to see her on anything. Children too, like they're not out in the public eye. That's the whole purpose of secret locations and, everything else. Yeah. But the investigators did describe this as the worst, most shocking case of incest in Austrian criminal history. So now I kind of want to get into something else. Like, did anyone notice anything? Is basically what I want to talk about, because I think that's probably what all of you guys are thinking. How did he get away with this for 24 years? And how did anyone notice anything at all? Well, neighbors or social services, they had no idea of what was going on. One neighbor said, quote, they had a swimming pool in the garden and we would hear them laughing, and all three of the kids too. End quote. Another neighbor backed up the story of the babies on the doorstep. They were adding that Rosemarie always looked after the kids so well. She was always taking them to school, and they always thought what she manages to do at her age was like incredible. An elderly woman, Maria, said that they were nice people and that she used to watch them take the three children to school. The three children who lived upstairs, their classmates told Austrian radio that the Fritzl girls and the boy kept away from others and seemed to lead separate lives. Other neighbors in the town expressed disbelief. The Fritzls were described as a normal family. They often saw Rosemarie shopping at local bakeries and grocers, which reminds me, I do want to touch on this. So everybody would notice if Josef was shopping all the time for his family, locked up in the cellar. So he would go like towns away to do his grocery shopping so he wouldn't be noticed. I just want to throw that out there. And then he would bring food back. So
he even thought of that.
Yeah, he even thought of that. Now, Alfred, and I'm going to say this last name wrong, Dubinowski. Yeah, we'll go with that. He was a neighbor who rented a small apartment over the secret cellar. And he told one of the newspapers that his suspicions were never aroused. Although he did say that he occasionally heard knocking coming from the basement, or he would see Josef taking food in that direction. But in another article, he stated that he would say that he would hear a banging noise, but to describe the sound as objects being dropped. And he couldn't really question Josef on these things. He's renting this room from him. When he did mention hearing noises, Josef told him it was just the basement's gas heater that he replaced. I guess turning on and off. Now, I do have some notes here on some of the psychologist's thoughts. And she said, I cannot imagine that nobody noticed anything. And this name is, I'm going to butcher it, so I don't know if I should even try, but the last name is Pulcher Masnar. Anyways, she told Austrian news agency that within the family, it was likely that there was a climate of psychological and physical abuse, and that in a situation like that, nobody's asking questions because everyone's afraid of the consequences. And I did make a few notes that I want to touch on too. Yeah. So growing up, I just want to go back to Josef's younger years. what built him up to be this monster that he became. He was born to a single mother who his father didn't have anything to do with him. Like, they broke up before he was born. And his mother was abusive and would tell him that she never wanted him or kids in general. And he would be in and out of foster homes at a certain point in time in his life. And he was just never given that love and affection that you need as a child. So that whole thing's missing. As he gets older and becomes a teenager, he becomes what we call a peeping Tom. So he would look through windows at women getting undressed and so forth. You know, the drill.
Is it suspected that he was sexually abused as a child?
They never said sexually abused, but he definitely has issues with peeping on people. But maybe his mother would do things and he knew of it, or in the same room, or who knows. One night, and this is all happening like while he's married. One night, he followed a young mother home, and he held her. He waited till, I guess, later that night when they were sleeping. He held her at knife point and raped her while the child slept in that same bed. He got 18 months in prison for doing that. He only served 12 months. His wife would visit him. His wife would tell the kids that he was gone away, like working somewhere.
You are kidding me.
No. No, she would visit him all the time. After he got out of prison, they went back to their normal, like, married life. And and this is the crazy part, and I don't know if it's still that way or not, but during this time, no matter what crime that you were charged with in the time after you serve your time, 15 years later, that crime is wiped from your record like it never happened. Yeah.
What?
Yes. And this wasn't the first time that he raped someone that we know of. Another woman stepped forward and he tried to rape her. He followed her home as well, attacked her. She fought him back, and she got loud, and it got to the point where he stopped. And
so was he married with kids at this time too?
Yes. Yeah. And he told her that I will come back for you someday. But she never reported it, because during this time, again, people being a woman and saying that you were raped or someone attempted to rape you was more of a hassle to report and testify than anything. So she just didn't say anything. But she probably wondered if he was coming back. Now I want to talk about Rosemary, the wife, the mom, a little bit.
Yes, please do.
Well, Elizabeth told investigators that her mother knew nothing about the sexual abuse that she endured since age 11 from her father. According to the police, Rosemary either believed her husband's account of things or she just didn't challenge it. After Elizabeth's rescue, Rosemary was like a constant presence by her side for like months. She even moved in with Elizabeth and her 6 surviving children at the clinic, where they had their own living quarters that we talked about. And they would share their experiences of abuse with one another. See, Rosemary was a victim of Josef's too. He would have violent rages throughout their 52-year marriage. At one point during her own pregnancy, he broke her foot. So, I mean, she was abused just in a different way, more physically. But yeah, they would share their experiences with each other. And although Elizabeth never questioned whether her mother had known that all this stuff was going on beneath her feet, she began to have doubts because when she found out that Rosemary stood by Josef after he was convicted of that rape in 1967, and she had refused to, like, if she refused to take him back, like, she could have been spared and none of this would have happened. But instead, she chose to stick by her husband's side and tell people that, oh, he's gone abroad for work. And she even Rosemary stood by Josef's side after he even broke his son Harold's nose. So Elizabeth really started to, like, question that, at that point.
But it's like, if he's got that much control over her.
Yeah, she's a victim too.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
right.
She might have had suspicions, but she could never say anything. I don't know. We don't know. But Rosemary was never treated as a suspect. I will say that. Detectives are convinced that she's entirely innocent. My question is like, how do you not raise suspicion? This is okay, so you don't notice that your husband has a liking of one of your children versus the other 6.
Mm-hmm.
You don't notice that it's weird that he takes that child with him everywhere. You don't notice.
And she keeps running away.
Yeah, and that she keeps running away, and then she runs away to a cult, but she didn't have any friends to even know who were in a cult. She didn't take any personal items with her. Her kids are magically showing up at the doorstep with a note like, I can't take care of them, raise them for me. I mean, to me, this just seems a little weird. I don't know. Are you in that much denial? I don't know. This is just stuff that I'm thinking about. I don't know, but I know she's a victim too. But yeah, I just want to put that out there. Just some thoughts.
I mean, it's like, it's a strong comparison, but it's almost like that mind manipulation, like people who have Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost like that, like I said, that total mind manipulation.
Yeah. I mean, she was easy to control, apparently. But I'm going to hop ahead a little bit, and I'm going to take you through a little bit on the trial that he had. So,
hop ahead?
Yeah. Josef Fritzl shocked the court when he changed his plea to guilty on all charges. And he stated that he changed his mind after seeing his daughter Elizabeth's videotape testimony describing her 24 years of sexual abuse in a dark, damp cellar. Now,
oh, what a big heart.
I know, right? Now, under their law, the final sentence is softened in the event of a confession. I just want to let you know that. But a psychiatrist told the court that the 73-year-old should be placed in a psychiatric facility as he has regarded himself as having been born to rape. That's how he described himself, Rachel, was that he was born to rape.
So this piece of crap probably knew that if he showed remorse and changed his guilty plea, that he would get less time.
That's probably what he's hoping for. I don't think you just suddenly grow a heart, but we'll go on. The psychiatrist also stated that Josef had a serious personality disorder, and that there's a risk that he would commit new offenses, and that, quote, the danger is still very much there that he would reoffend if he did not get treatment, end quote.
You think?
Yeah. Now, prosecutors have accused Josef of murder for letting a baby named Michael die shortly after his birth in the bunker. That's the baby where he threw his body in the furnace. So Josef maintained that the baby was stillborn, and he said that he burned the body in the boiler, but he eventually admitted that he was present at Michael's birth and that he had developed breathing problems. Josef said, quote, I don't know why I didn't help. I should have noticed that the baby was not doing well. I just hoped it would survive, end quote. That's what he told the court. Prosecutors say that baby Michael might have survived with the proper medical care that he and his mother had if they weren't locked up in the basement. Now, sentencing. In March of 2009, Josef Fritzl was sentenced to life imprisonment in a psychiatric ward after being convicted of rape, incest, slavery, imprisonment, and homicide. And he did waive his right to an appeal. Now the aftermath of it all. In November 2010, Josef was interviewed by reporters from Germany's Bild newspaper. They spent over an hour with him.
Oh, yeah. I think that's like the big, like here it would be like,
like New York Times or something.
Yeah, or like Washington Post or something.
Oh,
like the big,
okay.
I think that's their, I think.
Oh, well, you're probably right, because
I only know that for one reason.
I think this was like the first, because of your obsession with your band. Mm-hmm. And I think that they were probably like, this was probably the first interview that people have had with Josef since he got sentenced, is what I'm thinking too.
Really?
So they spent over an hour with him, and they were inside the top security prison where he was being held with 89 other inmates in a section for the mentally abnormal criminals. Now, Josef referred to himself as world famous. And when he was asked about the crimes he committed, he was like, oh, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. And when he was asked about how he felt about his daughter, who he chained to a bed, he mumbled, love. When Josef spoke about his wife, I know, it's disturbing. When he spoke about his wife, he said that he wrote her 8 letters and he never got an answer. And that's because Rosemarie actually divorced him after his conviction.
Good for her.
Good for her. Exactly. Finally. Josef said, quote, you're going to love this one. He said, my dream is that I will get out of here alive. I want to look after my wife again because she was always loyal to me. End quote.
Whoa, my God, with the mind games.
I know. Basically, he was living a double life. He had one family upstairs with his wife and 7 children. And then his daughter locked up downstairs with 7 more children. You know what I mean? Like, he's just insane.
Yeah. And that's so gross. Instead of saying like, oh, I'm sorry for putting my wife through this and you know, I could never make it up to her, blah, blah, blah. He's just like, she's loyal to me. Gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. None of Joseph's children.
People only think about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. None of his children, he has 13 living children, okay? None of them has visited him since his sentencing at this time. If I could speak. Okay. Josef has like this fantasy, though, that the children aren't visiting him because the authorities are preventing them from visiting.
Ew.
Like, that's what the story he has built in his head. Josef also described his days in prison. And this makes me so angry. Okay. So his cell is small. It's 11.5 square meters or whatever in size, and it's overlooking surrounding vineyards. He wakes up at 5:30 a.m. every day, and he showers, he exercises, he cleans the prison floors. And then he takes his hourly walks in the prison yard, but he's guarded with 2 security guards because fears of other inmates attacking him. He grows tomatoes and peppers in his cell, and he spends much of his time watching television. And his favorite show is 2.5 Men. And he stated that the small boy reminded him of his son. Yeah.
Oh, God, I would want to take that TV out of there immediately.
Yes. The reporters, they left there speechless, and I can definitely see why. Yeah. It just makes me mad because it's like, oh, so you have a view on your cell. You can walk outside. You can watch television. You can exercise. You can, you know what I mean? And like, Elizabeth didn't get these privileges.
Yeah,
No.
take a freaking shower.
Yes. Take a hot shower. You know, it's just, it's so irritating. You're probably wondering, like, are there any updates on Elizabeth? I do have one. Only one, though. And it's back from 2010. So it's an old update. But it was reported then that she actually began a relationship with one of the security guards who would watch over her and her family.
Aw.
So she got into a relationship and she's living her secret life with her new identity and her children. And the bad news is that I haven't read anything about Josef's death. I know that sounds so wrong for me to say, but you're just like, this is such an evil person. I know. Now, according to the National Post, in an article from December 3rd, 2021, Josef Fritzl, who's now, well, in 2021, he was 86 years old, could soon be eligible to apply for early release in 2024 if a psychological assessment deems that he is no longer a danger. But he is said to show signs of dementia. Yeah. And that's the story of the incest monster.
Let him stay in there and rot.
I was sitting there Googling like his death and I didn't see anything. Like, people like this will live forever. It just doesn't seem fair.
I hate it that he lives better than how he let her live.
Yeah, that bothers me a lot too. Yeah. I don't know how she did it. I just don't know. I don't know how she survived. What a strong woman.
I mean, I would think that once the kids came along, it gave her a reason to live.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, 5 years or so?
Yeah, it was 5 years before she had her first one. Yeah.
I mean, even 5 years, even a year or 2 years living like that. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Everybody watch A Girl in the Basement. If this story like disgusted you but interested you at all, this movie's for you. I just remember watching it thinking, oh my God, this is so horrible. This is so disturbing. But this story I just told you is even worse than that movie story. And that's pretty bad. There's
a couple scenes that are, I mean, like Lifetime does tame it down a little bit. But like the scene when he first attacks her, that, just be warned, it stuck with me.
Yes.
So it might stick with you. Because just the shock on her face, and it's not real. But
it was for Elizabeth.
Right.
Right.
So it's like the way that the actress portrayed the attack, like, I cannot believe that this just happened.
Yes.
It's just, I just can't get over that.
And what sticks with me about the movie is when he's doing that and she's like, stop it, Dad. What are you doing, Dad? And he's like, don't call me Dad. Call me Don.
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do want to watch this movie and you're having trouble finding it, I use the movie app called Vudu, VUDU, and they do have it for sale on there for like $2.99. It's super cheap. And it's got like 4.5 stars out of 5. It's an excellent movie. It's very disturbing, but it kind of gives you an insight of just a little bit of what Elizabeth went through. The Room would do the same thing, but The Room is so tame compared to A Girl in the Basement. I enjoyed A Girl in the Basement more so than The Room, and I really like The Room.
Didn't in both of those movies, wasn't it that both of the kids had some kind of asthma issue?
Yeah, they did touch on the ventilation issues. Yep. Yep. So yeah. That's the incest monster.
I'm glad that hoping she's good now.
I hope so too. I mean, obviously there's nothing really out there for us to know about her, and that's probably the way it needs to be.
Right. And that is okay. You know, I'm so happy that they did it that way, because I've just been watching a documentary about, I don't know if you remember that movie, I Know My Name is Steven.
I don't know.
It was about a little boy in the 80s that got kidnapped, and 7 years later he returned to his family.
No, I don't know if I know that one.
It was like his story was turned into a made-for-TV movie, like in the 80s.
But wait a second, was he actually the kid though that was I remember something like a kid being kidnapped or something, and then he comes home later and it wasn't even really him?
That's a different situation.
Okay, all right, but you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so I was watching this documentary, and the part that I'm in right now, they're talking about the media. How the media was just like in this kid's face and in the family's face. So,
which is awful.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine going through something so traumatic and having the media put all your information out there, waiting for you to come home and leave the house, and just all of those things. It's just awful.
Yeah, asking you like embarrassing questions you don't want anybody to know.
Mm-hmm. So I really like how they did this with keeping her privacy and exposing the monster.
I respect that so much.
Yeah, I do too. Because, I don't know, you just feel like, especially in a case like this, that's so traumatic, and you just want to like hug the victim and be like, it's okay if you want to stay in the shadows, and we don't blame you. Yeah. Before we let you go, I do want to mention, if you guys remember Vicky Embry, that was on the podcast a couple episodes back, she will be coming back again for a part 2 and touching on things that people have follow-up questions on, or that maybe she didn't get to cover from last time. So we're really happy to have her back, and be on the lookout for that. Yes, we love Vicky. We've become very good friends with her at this point. And just as a reminder, if you're interested in connecting with us, you can do so on Facebook. We do have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, but we're not as active on there as Facebook. And I tell you guys this all the time. So Facebook is the way to go, but you can follow us on everything. Also, you can email us if you want at operationevilpodcast at gmail.com. And if you do follow Facebook, I did post a couple things. I'm trying to get a feel out there if there's anybody that's interested in like Operation Evil necklaces that I've made. And like, is that something I should like make more of? There's also Operation Evil notebooks that I have published out there and available on Amazon. And I know we're going to do some giveaways in the future with these notebooks. They're really cute. I love them so much. And they feel very nice. The cover does. But
they are good quality.
Yeah, so we're slowly going to put some more like merch out there, because we love you guys and we love our logo and everything. So let's do this.
And also, let's be honest, you love to be creative.
I do. Any ideas? Let me know. Like, I eventually want to do like mouse pads and everything. I don't know.
Like a mouse pad rug?
Yeah, that came today. I can't wait to show you.
Oh, I want to see it.
It's so magical. It's magical. For those who don't know, I ordered like, it looks like an area rug, and it has like the fringes on the ends and everything. And it's a mouse pad. And I even got one that's the size of a coaster. And they're just so awesome. I know it's not for everybody.
Taking your pop for a magic carpet ride.
Yeah. It's so great.
Or not your pop, your water or whatever.
I love it.
Don't drink pop.
That's right. Anyway, you guys, thanks for listening. And do you have anything you want to close with, Rachel?
Thanks for telling us about this monstrous son of a bee.
You're welcome. If you guys have more questions, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. You're doing great. You did great on this episode.
Good job.
Thanks. All the show notes will have like where I got all the information, and there's a couple documentaries out there too that you can watch if you want more information on there. And other than that, I'll post pictures of the monster and the survivor and the cellar and the plans. So that's all I got for you. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye.